AITA for exposing my brother to his girlfriend after he brought my ex to my wedding? I, a 27-year-old man, have a younger brother, Dylan, who is 25 years old. Dylan and I were always close as brothers and had what I thought was a pretty normal relationship. Maybe I was blind to what was going on, or maybe he just hid his true feelings very well. This story also involves my ex-girlfriend Amanda, a 27-year-old woman, and my current wife Aubrey, a 24-year-old woman. Dylan, Aubrey, and I attended the same high school in our suburban hometown. I was a bit older than them, so I did not interact much with Aubrey at school. I knew Dylan and all his friends, and we hung out sometimes, but it stopped there. When I was in my junior year of high school, Dylan and I started to drift apart a bit because we had very different interests. I knew this kind of thing could happen and thought it was a natural result of growing up. So I did not push too hard to stay very close to him. The only relevant part here is that right as I was getting ready to head off to college, I hung out with some of his friends and their girlfriends, including Aubrey. Before anyone accuses me of anything inappropriate for hanging around a 15-year-old girl, I want to be clear, nothing of the sort ever happened. I met his friends once, and one of them asked if I was leaving for college. When I told them yes, Aubrey commented that it was her dream school, and I simply replied that I would be happy to help her when she applied. That was it. I did not interact with her at school beyond that. Then, I left for college and completely forgot about this little exchange because it was so insignificant. At college, I met Amanda. We were classmates. We got along well right from the start. It took me a while to ask her out, but I finally took the plunge in my junior year. She accepted, and we started dating. At the beginning of the relationship, everything was perfect. We understood each other well because we were going through similar things and wanted a similar lifestyle. So, I felt like I truly understood her. I landed a solid entry-level job right after graduation, but unfortunately Amanda did not. I was more than willing to help her, and we decided to move in together to an apartment to cut costs. She applied nonstop, but somehow, even after going through interviews, she was never selected. I knew it was affecting her mentally, and even though I earned enough for both of us, it was hard to save much because I had just started my career. She kept applying for more than a year without success. It was devastating for her, and I tried to be as understanding as possible. But shortly after, she got the idea that we could live comfortably on my salary alone, and she completely stopped looking for work. At first, I thought she was just exhausted from all her applications and rejections, and that it was weighing on her emotionally. So, I accepted this change. I told her to take some time to do the things she loved, and she did. That lasted 3 or 4 months, and she became happier, less stressed. She stopped complaining and was in a better state of mind than before. I was happy for her. I figured that in a few weeks, I could gently encourage her to start looking for a job again. A month later, I brought up the subject, but she reacted very badly. She said that just the thought of going through that process again made her want to cry and asked me to never bring it up again. She assured me she would start applying again when she felt ready. I trusted her and did not want to pressure her or seem insensitive, so I agreed. 2 years after getting my job, I received a promotion with a substantial raise. I was thrilled because I could finally start saving and doing the things I loved. For 2 years, I had to put aside a lot of my desires to support 2 people on my salary. In addition to Amanda's psychological struggles, my own hobbies had naturally been sidelined. I felt relieved at the thought that from now on I could use my money to treat myself. But as soon as Amanda found out about the raise, she started begging me to fund her niece's education. Amanda's brother was broke and unable to hold down a job for more than a few months. He had gotten a woman pregnant and did not know what to do. The problem is that the woman passed away, leaving the baby with no family, and therefore entrusted to Amanda's brother, who was absolutely not ready to take care of a child. Amanda begged me, saying she adored her niece. I do not know how, since she had only seen her twice, and that she would never forgive herself if she could not help her. That was already too much for me. So, I told her I would think about it, and left it at that. A part of me really considered giving the money, but another part, selfish perhaps, thought, that is your niece, you could very well find a job, any job, and help her. I drank a lot that night, and the more I drank, the more all the logic I had buried came rushing back to my face. I always suspected Amanda of taking advantage of me, but I paid no attention to it because I was in love, yet I could no longer ignore these thoughts. I was funding her entire life, which I was willing to do, But for her to expect me to also fund her niece as soon as I got a raise, especially at the expense of my own plans, it was too much. I knew it was time to stand my ground, because if I started funding her niece now, I would never get out of this situation. The next day, I sat Amanda down and told her that I would not fund her niece no matter how dire the circumstances. I also told her that if she truly felt sorry for that poor child, she was more than free to get a job and help her. It would be her money, and I would have nothing to say about it. She tried to interrupt me by saying I was cruel and that an unfortunate child needed my help, but I did not let myself be swayed. I also told her that if she did not plan on working, then the division of household chores was going to change. We had no kids or pets, so I expected her to take on 80% of the chores if she was not contributing financially. I explained that I had worked hard over the past 2 years managing both my job and the housework while supporting her, but that I now needed a little break. If she did not want to support me financially, so I could have more money for myself, then she had to lighten my load at home. To say she reacted with intense anger would be an understatement. I do not think I had ever experienced such a volume before. It was a miracle I did not end the conversation with ringing ears. During her long monologue, she called me everything: manipulator, financial abuser, misogynist, you can imagine. But as for me, all I wanted was a break. Why were we even together if she could not do that for me? The argument lasted a long time. I think she thought I was going to cave because I have always been non-confrontational. To her great surprise, I did not. We remained at a standstill for a few days. When I tried to bring the discussion back up, she exploded in the same way. That was when I realized it was over. There was no future for me in a relationship where I was just subsidizing her life without receiving anything in return. The breakup was ugly. She had nowhere to go since she had no job. I told her I was willing to give her some money to get by for a month or two, but beyond that, she had to figure it out because I was done. And then came the tears. She started crying, saying I was lying and causing a scene. I told her I was no longer interested in this relationship and that my decision was final. There was nothing left to save, and all the solutions she suddenly proposed should have crossed her mind when we were together. Not as a last resort. Even though I helped her out for a few more months, the breakup was ugly. It was only after she left that I realized how much dead weight I was carrying. I once again had so much time and energy to devote to myself. I picked up hobbies I had abandoned back in high school. It is thanks to these hobbies that I reconnected with Aubrey. She had not gone to my college, but had ended up getting into painting and the arts as a profession. I always loved doodling as a kid, even if it was just a pastime. Anyway, there was an art exhibition at a local gallery in the city, and I drove there out of curiosity, and that is where I ran into Aubrey. She was displaying a piece there, and we started talking. It was a few months after my breakup with Amanda. I asked Aubrey how she was doing, and we talked for quite a while, which we both enjoyed. We decided to see each other again, and she promised to let me know if there were any other art events in town. Did she do it? Yes, we saw each other again, and little by little we fell in love. It took me a year to officially ask her out, but by then, I was already madly in love with her. I tried talking to Dylan about it, but he told me he had lost touch since she broke up with the guy from their friend group in school. I am not going to go into all the details of my relationship with Aubrey, as they are not relevant to this story. Just know that it has always been a warm and balanced relationship between us, and I knew from the start she was the person I wanted to marry. Meanwhile, Amanda tried to contact me several times, but I always pushed her away. Aubrey was always aware when it happened, and she was confident enough to never doubt me. I introduced Aubrey to my family at a dinner a year into our relationship, and by that time, we were already considering marriage. My parents do not meddle in their children's private lives, so it was not a problem. It was a nice dinner, and Aubrey got along well with my family. We all talked about how life works in mysterious ways and the pure coincidence that made me run into Aubrey again. That is when Dylan joked, saying he could not believe his high school crush was going to become his sister-in-law. It seemed like a harmless joke at the time, and we all took it that way. Even Aubrey commented that Dylan was the only guy in his group worth listening to. It was a fun dinner, and I thought nothing more of Dylan's remark. He seemed genuinely happy for me. What I did not know is that he had harbored feelings for Aubrey all these years despite multiple relationships. The trouble started during the wedding preparations. It was not obvious to me at the time because I never imagined my own brother would do such a thing. At first, it was little things, missing some dinners we organized, forgetting tasks I had assigned him for the wedding, or making inappropriate remarks. Today, I know it was intentional on his part, that he was trying to create a rift between Aubrey and me and somehow stop the wedding. Aubrey and I were too solid to be affected by a few missed dinners, even though the situation was stressful for both of us. In reality, Aubrey grew more distant and impatient with Dylan, which only hurt him more. The final blow came on the day of the wedding. All this time, I had had zero contact with Amanda. I did not know where she was, what she was doing, or how her life was going. And quite frankly, I did not care. What I did not know is that Dylan had been in touch with her for months prior to the wedding. He was hoping for some kind of intervention or drama. And if nothing else worked, he was counting on Amanda to convince me to leave Aubrey. Amanda was not on the guest list, but she showed up as Dylan's +1. That surprised me because the whole family knew Dylan's girlfriend, and we assumed she would be coming. I did not have time to ask Dylan what Amanda was doing there, but I had a bad feeling. Fortunately, Aubrey had not noticed her yet at that point. Right before Aubrey walked down the aisle, Amanda stood up and started yelling in front of everyone, saying she was the love of my life, that she was ready to take me back, and that I did not need to marry Aubrey. It caused a huge commotion, and Amanda started crying and throwing a tantrum like a spoiled child. Honestly, it was pathetic. I ran over to Dylan, grabbed him by the collar, and ordered him to leave. He said he had come to fix everything, claiming that Amanda and I were meant for each other and that Aubrey and he were meant for each other. He kept spouting nonsense, and I was horrified. I asked my friends to escort him and Amanda out. By then, Aubrey had already stepped out, and I do not even know if she fully understood what was happening. But she calmly walked up to Amanda, confronted her directly in a bold move that stunned everyone, blew her a kiss, and asked her bridesmaids to start the music. I had never seen anything so iconic in my life. It was so humiliating for Amanda that instead of creating a scandal around me, it was just a spectacle for all the guests. The rest of the wedding went as well as it could given the circumstances. It was a dramatic day, not at all what I expected, but there was not much I could do to salvage the situation at that point. I blocked Dylan immediately after the wedding. I was not interested in hearing his side of the story because he had already shown me enough. It was disgusting and despicable, especially since Aubrey and Dylan had never shared any real connection. He had invented a fantasy in his head, and frankly, he was dangerous to be around. But the most important thing is that I felt bad for his girlfriend, Paige. A few days after the wedding, I called Paige to ask her why she had not come to the wedding and why Dylan had not brought her as his date. I wanted to know what story he had told her before deciding to intervene in their relationship. She was pretty blunt with me, saying I did not need to pretend to like her, that she preferred I drop the act and be honest with her. I immediately realized he had used Aubrey or me as an excuse to keep her from attending the wedding. I asked her why she was saying that. She told me to stop pretending since Dylan had told her she was not invited. That is why he did not have a date at the wedding. She said she did not care if he went alone or if we disliked her. But what had really hurt her was that the whole family pretended to like her when in reality, we could not stand her. I strongly assured her that none of this was true and that Dylan had lied to her. I begged her not to say anything to Dylan or our parents about our conversation for the next 2 weeks, and that Aubrey and I would meet her after our honeymoon. She said she would not betray Dylan for us. So, I had to send her a picture of the actual invitation that had been sent to Dylan, clearly showing he was allowed a +1. I also sent her screenshots of my conversations with Dylan where he confirmed his attendance. She said she did not believe us. I told her I understood and that we were not asking her to trust us. We just wanted her to stay quiet until we could meet up and clear up the confusion. She agreed, but I did not know if she actually would. I could only hope nothing went wrong while I was enjoying my honeymoon. But I was really eager to show Paige Dylan's true colors. Update 1. I did not think this story would get so much attention. My inbox is full of messages from people asking for updates. But like I said, I was enjoying my honeymoon and did not bother checking Reddit. Thankfully, nothing unusual happened during the honeymoon. Dylan stayed blocked and did not try to call me. Paige sent me a short message saying she had not spoken to Dylan about our conversation, but that she wanted to meet me as soon as I got back. The meeting took place a few hours ago. We met in a coffee shop because Paige did not feel comfortable coming to our house. At first, she was very defensive. Her body language and attitude clearly showed she was not interested in listening to us. but we told her in detail what had happened. Initially, she refused to believe us, calling us crazy for accusing Dylan of such a thing. However, during the honeymoon, I had asked friends if they had videos from the wedding. Even though no video captured the entire incident, several people had filmed clips, and we were able to more or less piece together what had happened. I showed these videos to Paige and then explained the whole situation with Amanda. That is when she started to believe us. She asked Aubrey if there had ever been anything between Dylan and her, and Aubrey firmly told her no. Paige had a hard time believing Dylan could be so delusional, especially if nothing had ever happened between them. Aubrey also said she was baffled. They had had maybe 10 to 12 in-person interactions in total, and she did not know when or how Dylan could have fallen in love with her, let alone assume she felt the same way. We told Paige that we felt it was our duty to inform her of what was going on and that she was free to do whatever she wanted with this information. We also told her that we had blocked Dylan and had no intention of getting back in touch with him, and that this would not change anytime soon, if ever. She said she understood why we were doing this, but that she also wanted to confront Dylan and do it as quickly as possible. We tried to dissuade her a little, but she said she owed it to herself to do it, especially because she was pregnant, to find out if it made sense to stay with Dylan. Aubrey and I congratulated her on her pregnancy and told her we would support her no matter what. She said she was certain she wanted to go through with this confrontation, but to do so, she would have to reveal that we had communicated with her and told her everything. Even though it was not ideal, since Aubrey and I wanted to stay out of Dylan's drama, we also knew it was only right to support Paige. We told her she had our full support and that we would do whatever was necessary to help her. That is all that happened at this meeting, but I know this is not the end. Things are going to blow up for Dylan, and he has no idea what is coming. Update 2. I know this update is coming very fast, but things have escalated beyond repair. Unintentionally, I triggered a storm, though I do not regret it, and Dylan is about to fall hard. After speaking with us, Paige did not waste any time and cut straight to the chase. She called Dylan and asked if he was at work. When he told her yes, she went to his office immediately and confronted him. Things went badly. She went straight into his office. She was let in because she said she was delivering documents, and she asked him if what we had told her was true. Dylan tried to say that this was not the place to talk about it, and that they would discuss it at home, but Paige did not accept that. There was a lot of yelling, and the human resources team had to intervene. And that is where things get even more interesting, or worse for Dylan. The human resources assistant asked Paige who she was and why she was causing such a scene. Paige said she was Dylan's girlfriend and that she was pregnant. To her great surprise, Dylan flat out denied being her boyfriend. There was even more yelling, and eventually Paige was escorted out of the office. When Dylan came home that day, a storm was waiting for him. They had a monumental argument, the details of which I do not know. What I do know is that it came out that Dylan had been unfaithful to Paige for a long time, and the woman he had been involved with was none other than the human resources assistant who had intervened during the confrontation. So Dylan is screwed. Paige is going to leave him. I am certain of it because she is a woman who does not tolerate disrespect. For her, forgiving infidelity is practically impossible. As for his affair partner, Dylan's office has a very strict policy against romantic relationships at work. Employees even have to sign agreements regarding this. Since Paige's confrontation and the little scandal at the office, his partner, let us call her Courtney, discovered that Dylan claimed to be single and that he had a pregnant girlfriend. Courtney was horrified to learn that she was the other woman and that Dylan had lied to her all this time. The news spread like wildfire, and now Dylan is in the crosshairs at work for what he did. To make matters worse, Courtney has connections with upper management at the company. So Dylan is in trouble on all fronts. He risks losing his job, and he is definitely going to lose Paige. Oh, and Paige kicked him out. It turns out the house where he lived belonged to Paige's grandmother. So Dylan has nowhere to go. Dylan came to our house in the middle of the night to explain all this to me. I do not know why, but I let him in. I had never seen him so furious in my life. He kept screaming that I had ruined his life, that I did not deserve someone like Aubrey, and that one day she would leave me for him. He seemed so delusional that I feared for his mental health. He needs help from either a therapist or maybe a psychiatrist. Dylan also became aggressive, and things got physical with me. I know people will say I am an idiot for not calling the police, but deep down he is my brother, and I did not want to cause him more trouble. I felt pity for him more than anything else. It is impossible to imagine how someone can destroy their life with a single stupid decision. He had everything one could dream of: a great job, a loving and loyal girlfriend, and now a baby on the way. And he ruined it all with a series of idiotic decisions, living in a bubble of strange fantasies. At this point, I feel nothing but pity for him. Update 3. Dylan lost his job, and although it is no surprise, I still feel bad. Paige broke up with him and wants nothing more to do with him. My parents fully support Paige, as do Aubrey and I. Now, Dylan thinks I turned the whole family against him over a harmless joke. Yes, he is now calling his declaration of eternal love a joke. Nobody is buying his new version, and he has been completely cut off from the family. I do not know where he is living now, and all this drama is making me nervous. I am a newlywed, and I cannot keep running around dealing with the disaster Dylan created. I know I started all this by involving Paige in the first place, and I am glad I did. But I never imagined it would blow up this much. It is total chaos, and I do not see how Dylan will be able to recover from this. My parents are furious at him for ruining everything and behaving like a fool, and I do not blame them. We were not raised like that, and I do not know how he ended up this way. That being said, this will be my final update. Aubrey and I decided we need to put all this behind us. We will be there for Paige and our future nephew or niece in whatever she needs, and she will always have a home with us. But beyond that, it is over. Update 4. I said the previous update would be the last one, but if things keep happening and they are important enough to be told, I feel I must come back to write them. This time, the news is that Dylan and Amanda are together. Yes, my ex-girlfriend and my brother have started a relationship. You will now understand why I had to make this post. It is not simple news, nor easy to process. I found out because Dylan, in his infinite sense of propriety and absurdity, decided he wanted to introduce his new girlfriend to our parents. As you can imagine, after everything that had happened, my parents are well aware of Dylan's infidelity, the wedding disaster, and the situation he left Paige in. So, when he mentioned he had a new girlfriend, they asked who it was, thinking it might be the woman from his work. But no, it was Amanda. The same Amanda who had crashed my wedding screaming that I was the love of her life. The same Amanda who had humiliated me in front of my wife and our guests. The first thing they asked him was what he was thinking. My father was direct and told him he did not want any more drama in the family, that after everything that had happened, dating my ex was truly a stupid decision. But Dylan told them that this time it was serious. According to him, he and Amanda had reconnected after my wedding, started talking again, and ultimately decided they wanted to be together. So, my parents told him he was not allowed to bring her to the house because they did not believe the relationship would be serious. Of course, I learned all this when my mother called to tell me what had happened. She said she did not want me to find out from someone else or stumble upon it on social media. I do not even know if their relationship is real or if they are just using each other to get back at Aubrey and me, because that is exactly what it looks like. What disturbs me the most is that after everything that happened, Dylan should be focusing on his future child with Paige, not creating even more drama with Amanda. I know Paige is determined not to get back together with Dylan after everything she found out, but Dylan needs to be a father to his child. It is like he is living in a completely different reality. As for Amanda, I am also unclear about her intentions. Maybe she thinks that by being with Dylan she is hurting me in some way. But the truth is I no longer have any feelings for Amanda. If her relationship with Dylan is real, good for them. But if they are doing this to provoke me, or because Amanda still has some sort of plan to get between Aubrey and me, they are going to be very disappointed. Update 5. It was clear that the relationship between Dylan and Amanda was nothing more than a desperate attempt to bother us, which they absolutely failed to do. The proof is the latest ridiculous twist in this story. Amanda sent me a message from a new number since her and Dylan's numbers are blocked on my phone. In the message, Amanda told me that despite being with Dylan, she was still ready to drop everything if I asked her to, that I only needed to say the word, and she would leave Dylan to get back with me. Obviously, I did not reply to this message and blocked the number immediately. What made this all even more surreal is that Aubrey also received a similar message, but this time from Dylan. He told her he had always loved her, that neither his friend nor I were good enough for her, and that he was the only one who could give her everything she needed. As if that was not absurd enough, Amanda also sent a message to Aubrey shortly after, telling her that she would lose me soon and that she would be there waiting for me when it happened. It is frankly ridiculous. It is insane for Amanda to think that even in the hypothetical event that Aubrey and I divorced, something that is absolutely not in our plans, I would go back to someone like her. Who in their right mind would want to be with a person who has proven to be so toxic and manipulative? After receiving these messages, Aubrey and I blocked all the new numbers they used to contact us. We have no interest in continuing to fuel this absurd drama. Honestly, I hope this is my last update on this subject. It is exhausting and ridiculous, and Aubrey and I are more than ready to leave all this behind us and move forward with our lives. Edit. For months have passed, and I have not heard from them again, so I can say it is over. If they try something new, well, you will see me back here. Comment. I really hope this story gave you something to think about. I've learned that protecting your own peace is one of the most powerful choices you can make. Standing up for your self-respect isn't selfish, it's necessary. Learning to set clear boundaries helps you build healthier relationships in the long run. Sometimes walking away is the most responsible thing you can do for your future. True healing starts the moment you decide to focus on your own growth instead of other people's chaos. Being kind to yourself should always come first. You deserve to be surrounded by people who truly value and support you. Choosing calm over constant drama can transform your entire life. Take some time to reflect on where you might need to draw a line in your own relationships. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.